Hi, Liz.
Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you with us. We're doing this interview today for Full Circle Wellness and Chronic Wellness Tools. And you and I came together because you so graciously raised your hand and offered to be a sponsor of our project to spread chronic wellness. So I want to thank you so much for being one of those key sponsors.
Oh, my pleasure. It really is. It's when you spoke about your cause, I wanted to support you.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. So this is the first time we've gotten to connect. We're on other sides of the world. And so I was hoping maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit and tell me about you before we get into your business and your take on wellness.
Sure. Well, I'm speaking to you from Bangalore in India. In fact, you might hear India in the background, which I apologise.
No,
But I've lived here about 3 years, and I'm originally from Dublin, although confusingly I have an English accent. So if there's anyone listening to this going, she sounds English. Yes, I do. And I lived in London for a very long time before I came here.
Okay.
I have a background in film, and gradually I've been easing myself into the world of coaching, which is just delightful, I have to say. And I became a coach about 3 or 4 years ago because I needed to change my life from the hours I was working in film. It's very, very, very stressful, very long hours, very intense. You sit in the dark. In fact, when I was working on a couple of films, I sat in the dark for so long that I got a vitamin D deficiency.
Oh, wow.
I just didn't see daylight. They had to inject me with vitamin D.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just rooms of people sitting in the dark, hunched over computers for 16 hours a day. And it's not particularly healthy.
Right.
It's not particularly good. And gradually, I became sick, mostly like a plant. I never saw daylight. I never got nourished by anything.
Right.
And I became really very ill. And I ended up in the hospital, not once, but twice, and had quite big surgery.
Oh my goodness.
And after the first time, I'm freelance, or I was then, I'm freelance. And so if I didn't work, I didn't earn. So by being in the hospital, I had to, debts accrued, and I had to go straight out after the surgery, almost to the day they said I could go back to work. I rushed back into work, worked like a dog, and 2 or 3 years later, I was like, hang on, I've missed a scan. And I went back, and it had all come back.
Oh my goodness.
Everything, so it was like disgusting lumps and things. It wasn't cancer, but it was really quite unpleasant.
Yes.
And my medical team said, we don't know why this has happened. There's no reason for it to happen. You had a kind of one-off illness. We should have removed all the stuff that's happened. It almost never comes back. But I knew why it came back, because I had worked such stupid hours for so long. Mm-hmm. So I had another operation. I thought, I've just got to change. I've got to do something else. And that's when I began to think about, I looked at my colleagues, and we're a pasty bunch in film, because we never go out.
Right.
And everyone eats terrible food, and I did yoga, and I ate well, but I still worked far too hard. And I loved what I did, but loving what you do is not enough if it's killing you.
Right.
So, and you would know this as well. And
yep.
So I did my training, and I built up. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a military helicopter going over now. It's all go in India. It's all go.
Yep.
So I did my training, and for me, the interesting thing was, at first I thought I thought I was a new coach. And gradually, as I worked with people, I realised that I'd been coaching for my whole adult life. Mm-hmm. I'd never thought of it like that.
Right.
In film, when I ran a team, I would be convincing people to work the weekend, to work a little later, to put more effort in. And the gentle way you do that, the way you convince clients to accept your pictures and to approve stuff, that's all coaching. So instead of using it for evil, for good, it's like night and day. It's
absolutely.
a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And so that's really good. So now what I do primarily is I help people find the passion for their careers in their jobs, either where they are already, revive that, or I help people, because there's a lot of people that are just stuck.
Yes.
So they're ruining their health, doing a job that they feel they can't leave. You know, they're an accountant or an attorney, or doing the jobs that their parents wanted them to do.
Yes.
And they can't leave. And particularly, it's a real deadly kiss if you are good at it, so you earn good money.
Yep. Oh,
so
yeah.
Were you in the same position?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, I think they called it the golden handcuffs. You know, you have this wonderful thing you should be so thankful for, and so many people around you saying your life is perfect and everything's great. And I know this now looking back, but when I walked out the door of my house every day to go to work, I would hear a voice in my head that said, "This is killing you." And even before I got really sick, I would just override that, and I would put on my, high heels, and I would head into the city. And it actually has very much informed some of the questions I ask people. I love to ask, if your illness was trying to tell you something, what would it be? And I love that you say, well, I knew why it had come back, because I do believe that if we give ourselves the quiet and the space to open up to listen, that our body is trying to tell us something. And especially when we are working in a job that doesn't serve us, or moreover, just not listening to what our body is trying to tell us, it just will speak louder and louder and louder until we listen.
Oh, completely, and exactly what you say. I remember talking to a friend, and I was saying how, because the second time I got sick, I was really angry with my body. Yeah. I felt it just completely betrayed me. How dare it grow all these appalling things and require more surgery and more expense and more attention.
Right.
And I was probably getting a bit ranting, waving my arms about, and I was saying how my body was weak and it had let me down. And my friend very, very quietly said, "Do you really think it's weak? You've gone 6 years carrying this around inside you.
Exactly.
Don't you think that makes you..." And I was like, wow, I never even thought of that, because I'd ignored it.
Yep.
So you must be strong to be able to have carried on like this with the hours you work for this long.
Yes.
And it really, the conversations that change everything.
Absolutely.
And this was one of them. And it was like, I've just got to change things.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I really will have worked myself to death.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
Yes, absolutely.
And my last thought is not going to be, "I'm really glad I did that overtime."
Right, right.
That's just silly. So I decided to change everything. And I was offered a job with a very big American studio in India. So I came out, I'd done a BBC TV series in India a couple of years before, and I really like it here. It's lovely. So I knew that would change my life in London, obviously by not being there. It's very different in India.
Yes.
And I live a fabulously, I'm going to be honest, a very privileged life here.
Yes.
Because I was well paid, and they set me up with a lovely home, and you have all those lovely trappings of a life that I certainly couldn't afford in the West. I have a driver and a cook and a maid, and it's a social responsibility to have those things, because if you can afford it, you should be spreading your wealth around.
Sure.
But I hated the job, and I thought, well, I've done it again. I was working like a dog. I was just doing it in a nice house.
Right. Right.
What am I doing? I felt like I'd sold my soul.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. And again, I had another one of those epiphany moments where I was building my retreat business, my stress management business, and I was in tears in the middle of the night at the thought of going to work the next day.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I run a stress management business.
Right.
Why am I doing a job I hate?
Right.
Why the pointless? Listen, physician, heal yourself. Listen to what you teach other people.
Absolutely.
And I went in the next day and I resigned from the other company. And they're a very well-known American company. No one ever leaves. They had no mechanism for anyone resigning.
Amazing.
So I had to resign to 6 people, one after the other. They just, it's because the general manager and the head of production and the head of animation, and I'm leaving. And they just couldn't understand it.
Amazing.
But to their absolute credit, they knew how much I wanted to stay in India, and they knew that I was unhappy with the job, but um, I had to go. And they all used the same word, that he was very bold, and we all want to help bold people.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't interesting, because when you're a problem, because of course I wasn't doing very well at that company because I was extremely unhappy.
Right.
And once I made myself bold, everyone wanted to help me. And it's one of those sort of moments the universe just started falling into place.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, and since then, I stayed on in India because, like I said, it's nice here.
Yes.
And it's lovely and it's healthy. It's a beautiful environment and life is good. And now I spend my days helping other stressed people find what they should be doing with their lives and become less stressed. And I think, it's my life is full of joy. And if you told me that when I was slogging it away in a dark room making appalling Hollywood films, 10 years ago, even 3 years ago, I would not have believed you. It's great. I spend most of my days giggling, which is great.
I just love it. I just absolutely love it. And I love that one of these epiphanies you mentioned was this shift from viewing your story, that your body was weak, to viewing it, as strong, and recognizing how much you had been carrying for so long. It's so linked to my desire to shift the thinking from chronic illness to chronic wellness. And I love how your story ties into that. And
exactly. I think it's so easy to overlook. Like I said, I was very resentful of my body. How dare it be sick?
Yes.
And that's ridiculous, apart from anything. Your body's doing what it can. And even now, I still talk about my body as though it's not. There's a slight disassociation. I think when you've been very ill,
yes,
it's quite easy to feel that separation.
Absolutely. Well, and we do it as a protective device too. We were talking about creating the space to hear what your instinct is telling you, but being in the present and being in your body when you've been experiencing illness and tremendous pain is not a comfortable place to be. So we project ourselves anywhere but being right there in the moment. And that's a big one to come to terms with too. Absolutely.
Completely. And I think that's part of why I love yoga. Yes. And why meditation for me is so important. Yes. Because even if it's just a little while each day, you're there. You are, and with yoga in particular, you have to accept the faults of your body.
Absolutely.
You can't. I'm an enthusiastic yogi, but I'm not a strong yogi.
Yeah. And
there are certainly lots of positions that I would love to be in. Doesn't matter how strongly I want to do that. Sure. My body is not going to do it till I'm ready.
Sure. I love it. So on the topic of reframes and bringing in joy and accepting your passions, you have a story to tell about a new side of your business, and I would love for you to share it with us.
You're talking about cake.
I'm talking about cake. I'm talking about time machines, more specifically.
Time machines, absolutely. Well, I have a vast joy in cake. I love cake. And it's only very recently that I've realised that I can bring my simple desire to feed people cake into like a wider audience, because I believe, in fact, I made a documentary in the summer. I shot it. I haven't quite finished it. I shot a documentary in the summer about exactly this, about how cakes, and they have such a power for us culturally. If someone gives you a cake, there's that. It's just, even if you don't particularly like them, the fact they've given you a cake makes everything just better.
Absolutely.
And the act of baking itself is a wonderful thing, because of cakes, and that's what the documentary is called, Baking is the Smell of Love. The smell of a baking cake will take almost everyone back to their childhood.
Yes.
Right, straight back to those happy memories. There's always someone in your family that baked, someone that was around you, and that smell in your home instantly transports you back there, which means, as you say, cake is a time machine. Which is, how cool is that? It means you can walk into your kitchen and make a time machine.
It's so
cool.
It absolutely, and not just a time machine to times in our past, but to relationships in our past. I remember who in my family liked which cake and which one went with whose birthday. And I absolutely love what a connective device it is, too.
Well,
That's,
and you're absolutely right. Even now, if I see the cake that was my sister's favourite,
yes,
I get excited about it. And
absolutely.
you're right. You always remember
Absolutely.
those cake choices. I think it's vital. And I think there's so much that is po-faced and unhappy about life.
Yes.
Whereas, frankly, if everyone just eased up a bit and had some more cake, life would be good.
Absolutely. I absolutely love it. So here is a perfect combination as you are helping people who are stressed and in spots that aren't fully fulfilling their wellness, and you're blending it with a wellness medicine that is in the form of pure sensory joy.
Exactly. And I feel so strongly about cake that the
Yes.
first cake book we did
Yes.
was we did it with and we think nutritionist Chris Sandel is a fantastic guy. So we came up with healthy cakes,
I love
a book of healthy cakes, and they've all got sort of vegetables in them, so beetroot brownies and courgette cakes, but they all have alternative flours and alternative sugars and stuff in it. So we call it covert injection of vegetables into children through cunning manners. We can sneak, a child that would never touch a zucchini for love nor money, you can convince them to eat a piece of cake.
I love it.
Healthy.
Covert cakes. I love it.
Covert cake, exactly. In fact, I'm shooting a little documentary, a little video series at the moment, which is about world domination through cunning use of cake.
I love that.
I am quite obsessed, I have to say.
Well, I think there are endless opportunities for this. I really do. It's a whole untapped universe for you, Liz.
It's true, and culturally so important.
Absolutely.
Cakes can change the world.
They really can. I absolutely. Well, I mean, you could do an entire book on the cultural cakes. I mean, each culture has its own representative cake.
It's true, and India doesn't have a huge cake culture. It's the only thing I really don't entirely love about this country. But I'm also part of, get this you'll like this, I'm also part of a worldwide group of covert bakers.
I love it.
There's a secret society called the Clandestine Cake Club, which is just about that. Its only premise is that people meet in secret places and eat cake together.
It's fantastic.
How beautiful is that? It's lovely.
Absolutely fantastic. It's the best hidden gem that I have experienced yet in this entire interview series. So thank you for that, Liz. I love it. Well, I have this little tradition that I love to do, if you'll bear with me, but I love to ask you if you had one thing that you were telling someone, whether they were feeling stuck or feeling like they had, I guess, anything from chronic illness to chronic overwhelm, and you were wanting to share one thing that someone could do to open themselves up to, let's go beyond healing. I love with your cake example, truly reaching for joy, beyond healing and into joy. What would that one thing be?
The one thing that people do, well, for health, I would say very simply, just listen to your body. Your body knows.
Yes.
And we ignore it. So listen to your body. But the thing that brought me back to myself time and time again is meditation.
Yeah.
And we don't think of it as something that creates joy. We tend to think of it as something that creates calmness, relaxation.
Right.
But there is no reason why you can't remember joyful feelings and meditate on that.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful thing. Meditation, more than anything else, I suggest it to all of my clients and all of my friends. And that alone will change everything.
Absolutely.
I really do believe that.
Well, I appreciate so much. And I think that just for you, we're going to bend my favorite one thing, and we have to make it favorite two things because it's really going to need to be meditation plus cake.
So true. Cake is the answer.
Cake.
Absolutely right.
Cake is the answer.
Cake is always good. Cake is always good.
So tell me where we can find you online, and when people want to learn more about world domination through cake, where can they do that?
Well, you could find me on blog.rethinkretreats.com.
Okay.
Which is the business blog, which is all about a mix of coaching and cake and how to find joy in life.
Wonderful.
But my personal blog, if you'll allow me to, is about my ridiculous life in India, and that is called madamletmetellyoonething.com. Which is what I hear in India all the time. Madam, let me hear you one thing.
I love it. I'm going to go scope that one out myself. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so thankful to have finally met across the wires and gone living room to living room with you across the world. And I just want to thank you again so much for raising your hand and sponsoring our campaign to spread chronic wellness. It just means the world to me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. It really is.
All right. Well,
thank you.
Take care. Thanks so much, Liz. Bye-bye.
Bye.